Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. I am Reverend Stephen, minister of this congregation. Thank you for joining us this morning as we gather once again both in person and on Zoom, a spiritual community working to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, seek justice, and grow together in community. So thank you to our team leading worship this morning, our musicians, Vanessa Vesley, Shirley Kiernan, Katie Grigg-Miller, and Marilia Ash, our religious education director, Colleen Taylor, worship associate Heidi Emhoff Wood, our two special guest speakers, Andrew and Evian Rome, thank you, playing special roles. Right. Once again, welcome. And now as we settle back into our seats, let's just take a moment to breathe, to be present to the gift of this Easter morning, this moment in time. As we do, let's turn our minds and hearts to entering into community once again and inviting the Spirit to be present as we celebrate a day of wonder, of joy, and of gladness. Now come, let us worship together.
This year is very special as observances for three major holidays coincide: Christianity's Easter, Judaism's Passover, and Islam's Ramadan. I Googled how often these three holidays converge. The answer? About every 33 years. Having grown up in a very Christian-centric world, I know little about Passover and Ramadan, and I don't even really celebrate Easter anymore as the traditions of my family have died with the family members who upheld them. Today, however, we are going to explore all three faith traditions as well as welcome the renewal and energy that comes with the spring season. Let us learn something new and rediscover the magic of the familiar.
As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice to unite us in our worship, to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth within us and among us, and to be a light to guide us on our journey as a community toward freedom. I invite Sandy to come light our shared chalice, and as she does, if you're there on Zoom, I invite you to light your home chalice. Thank you, Sandy. Our chalice lighting words this morning have been adapted from Judith Quarles, and I would invite you to respond with the words for all. Chalice, flame, fire of spring, of Passover, of Easter, bring to us beauty. Bring to us strength. Bring to us hope. Bring to us light. Bring to us joy. And remaining seated, I invite you to join in singing number 395, our chalice lighting response hymn, Sing and Rejoice.
Why don't we sing straight through twice, and then we'll sing 2 more times as a round. So we'll lead that. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice. Let all things living now sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice. Let all things living now sing and rejoice. So how about this area is number 1, you start. And this area, number 2, come in where the number 2 is. And if you're in the back 4-ish rows, you can come in on number 3. And if you want to lead the number 2, I'll start out on number 1. Ready? Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice. Let all things living now sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice. Let all things living now sing and rejoice. All things living now sing and rejoice. Sing now, sing and rejoice.
Once upon a time, there was a girl by the name of Maya who grew up with loving parents and supportive friends who were almost always available to have fun. Now, Maya was creative and curious. She loved to learn, and she had lots of questions all the time. Well, one year, after a long, cold, snowy winter, spring arrived, and Maya started to think about Easter.
Easter is a nice holiday, and I always like how it feels like a celebration of returning of spring. And I do like that I usually get a vacation from school around this time, too. But do you know what they told me at church?
What did they tell you at church?
Well, it's interesting, but it makes me a little confused. I go to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent, where the minister in Easter said Easter is about Jesus, but it is also about other holidays and stories, too. That's about all I remember. Do you know more about it?
That's a very good question. Your minister is right. For once. And maybe wise once in a while. There are many holy days and stories from around the world this time of year. One of them is a story of the Jewish people who were called the Israelites, tell of how they were slaves in Egypt long, long ago, and they became free. The story of how the Israelites were set free is called Passover. Now, every year in the spring, they tell this story during a special meal called the Seder. You can't tell the story of Easter without telling the story of Passover. The story is so important because it is a celebration that Jesus took part in the night before he died. You see, Jesus was Jewish, and the Passover is a story of the Jewish people. So over 3,000 years ago, a group of Jewish people called the Israelites were being kept in slavery in Egypt by the ruler named Pharaoh. A man called Moses went to see Pharaoh many times to ask him to let them go, but Pharaoh refused. Moses told them if he did not release them, God would make terrible things called plagues happen to the Egyptians. Pharaoh didn't listen, and the plagues came. 10 plagues included turning the Nile River into blood, frogs covering the land. There were insects everywhere, animals dying. The Egyptians got skin diseases. The sun stopped shining, and the firstborn child in Egyptian families were killed by an angel. God is said to have told Moses to tell the Israelites to paint a lamb's blood on their doorpost. This way, the angel would know that Jewish people lived there, and it would pass over that house and not take the life of the firstborn child. This is where the name Passover comes from. For the last plague, even Pharaoh's own son died. Pharaoh then summoned Moses and told him to take the Israelites out of Egypt immediately. Finally, after 200 years of slavery, the Jewish people were free. You can read the story of Passover in the book of Exodus, part of the Jewish scriptures known as the Torah. Now every year the Jewish people celebrate Passover. At the beginning of the event, family and friends get together for the Seder, and there's a special Seder plate which has some things on it. There is a lamb bone, which symbolizes the sacrifice and blood from the lamb that was painted on the doors. There is a roasted egg. This is a symbol of sacrifice, but it also symbolizes the Israelites' determination when they were going through a difficult time, for the cooked egg is very hard. There is a green vegetable to dip in salt water. The green vegetable is a reference to new life, and the salt water symbolizes the Israelites' tears. There are bitter herbs, often horseradish. This symbolizes the bitter suffering that the Israelites went through. There's cheroset. This is a paste of chopped apples, walnuts, and wine. It's a symbol of the material used by the Israelites to make bricks while they were working as slaves. Jewish people cannot eat bread that has risen during the Passover celebration, so they eat a special type of flat bread which hasn't risen, known as also as unleavened bread, called matzah. During the meal, the door of the house is also left open for the prophet Elijah, an important religious person in the Jewish tradition, as it is believed he will return to announce the coming of the Messiah. That evening, the families also read the Haggadah. This is a book that tells the Passover story and has songs and blessings. Children ask questions, and everyone talks about the story. To tell our version of this story, I've chosen a reading by my colleague Victoria Safford titled Desert Spring that Heidi will read for us.
They had no idea where they were going when they left that night, in the dark, without lights, without shoes, without bread. Their children smothered against them so they would make no noise. They had no idea what they were getting into, following this Moses, this wild-eyed one who claimed visions and made promises, but who, after all, could guarantee them nothing except death if they were caught. They had no idea, these slaves, what it could mean, this promise of land, their own country, and life abundant. Of freedom, they knew nothing except they could taste by living in its opposite, slavery, and that taste became hunger, and that hunger became insatiable till they were ravenous for freedom. And they went out then. They went into the wilderness. There they wandered 40 years, which in those days was a lifetime. 40 was a good old age, so many of them died before getting anywhere, and many were born in the desert and grew to adulthood knowing nothing but the journey, not slavery, not freedom, just the going. They whined and complained and muttered, and some mutinied, for they were stiff-necked and rebellious people. You can read it for yourself. Unhappy people, longing, out loud even, for the familiar security of Egypt, of all places, where at least they knew what to expect, as awful as it was. Impatient people, making cheap little idols and gods of metal to bargain with in secret when traveling got hard or merely dull, and the days and years became monotonous. In the springtime, we remember the Promised Land is not a destination. It is a way of going. The land beyond Jordan, the country of freedom and dignity and laughter, you carry it inside of you all the while. It is planted in your mind and heart already, before you ever start out, before it occurs to you that in order to leave that life in Egypt, the intolerable bondage that life, what you need to do is stand up and walk forward.
Once the Israelites left Egypt, they wandered in the desert. They faced hardship and struggled at times, but they stayed together as a community and took care of each other on the journey. We take time now to care for our spirits and for each other. One of the best gifts we can give ourselves in our busy lives and these challenging times is to care for our spiritual lives. So each week we create a time of shared stillness for prayer or reflection, gratitude or meditation, or simply being, in order to remember who we truly are, to reflect on life, and to reconnect with the sacred mystery that is the heart of life itself. Let's spend some time now in shared silence. In this mystery that is life, there are many experiences, including struggle and loss. If you're on Zoom this morning and you have a sorrow, loss, or struggle to share, please use the chat box now. Are there any yellow cards among those of us here in Hobbs Hall? With sorrow, I share that Bob Erdman will be moving to Dayton at the end of this month to be closer to his family. We will miss you a lot, Bob. If there is anyone in your heart and mind this morning that is ill, struggling, you want to remember, you're welcome to speak their names out loud at this time. We remember the lives lost, the war in Ukraine. We pray for peace. Let's enter now into the spirit of prayer with these words adapted from the Reverend Frank Clarkson. On this Easter morning, may we roll away the stone of our hesitant hearts and let the light shine on all the sleeping shadows. May we awaken to this day that offers itself to us and to all as a gift. May we hold in our hearts those whose grief or sorrow or struggle or pain hold them back from joy. As the earth awakens around us, may we awaken once again to the beauty that persists, the chance that we might begin again, that even here we are finding our way to healing, and hope that even now we are changed by our very breathing and being. May we re-embrace the recreation of community, the remembering of how to grieve together, woven through loving, that we might still surprise this earth with a new song sung together, calling us all in, and then sending us back out to life. May it be so. We've also had moments this week that have lifted our spirits, moments of joy, wonder, and awe. Once again, if you're on Zoom, you are welcome to use the chat box to share joys with us. And from Morgan, I got an Easter basket with an I Did a Science t-shirt. Julie Beal shares that I am grateful to the kind people who crocheted my beautiful prayer shawl. Ann Waters sends her thanks for the cards and prayer shawl we sent to her. C.J. Smith says, I am grateful to have my adopted son and his family safe and living with me now. Kat Holtz shares that my mom will be 84 tomorrow. Oh, happy day to her, Kat. We honor Bob Erdman with gratitude and deep appreciation for the many ways he has served this congregation through the years and helped UUCK thrive. Thank you, Bob. The Curris family says, we are grateful for a fun middle school hangout at Hobbs Hall last night with friends. Yay. Susanna and Dave, Don Smart had a 95th birthday. Wow, that's wonderful. Now, with gratitude for these and every blessing we receive in life, for the gift of life itself, for the companionship of each other on life's journey, for the beauty of our world, and for this day of possibility, let us raise our hearts in gladness and together say, Amen.
Order of service that we are going to talk about Ramadan now.
Of course, Maya. This is a very special year because Ramadan is happening at the same time as Passover and Easter.
I don't know anything about Ramadan. Is it a celebration of rabbits or eggs or chocolate?
No. Ramadan is a special time for people who are Muslim. There is food involved, though. Maybe even chocolate. Let me tell you more about Ramadan, and then Colleen will tell us a wonderful folktale. In the religion of Islam, Ramadan is the 9th month of the Muslim calendar and the holy month of fasting. It begins and ends with the appearance of the crescent moon. Because the Muslim calendar year is shorter than our calendar year, Ramadan begins 10 to 12 days earlier each year, allowing it to fall in every season through a 33-year cycle. This year, Ramadan lasts from Saturday, April 2nd to Sunday, May 1st, so it is happening at the same time as Easter and Passover. Islamic tradition states that it was during Ramadan, on the night of power, which is one of the last 10 nights of Ramadan, usually the 27th night. that God revealed to the Prophet Muhammad the Quran, Islam's holy book, as a guidance for the people. For Muslims, Ramadan is a period of introspection, communal prayer in the mosque, and the reading of the Quran. During the time from dawn until dusk, people don't eat. At the end of the month of Ramadan, there is a huge feast. Colleen, would you like to tell us a story about this feast?
No, I do. So for this story, I need a couple of volunteers to join me up here. I promise it won't be painful. I need you to sit at this table. Come on. Who's coming up here? Yes, Ian and Benny. Oh, and Benny and Katie.
Oh, Katie, good.
I'm gonna put you down, Ian. I'm sorry, I got it. The kids got it. Kind of what I do, you know? Hang with the kids.
Colleen,
all right.
Come on. There's always room at our table for one more.
That's true. That's true. Do you want to pull up a chair, Ian? Right over here. Morgan, you're right here. There we go. We got a feast coming. We're going. All right. So here's the deal. You've been very hungry for a long time, and now the Ramadan, the sun is setting, you are able to break your fast and eat. So everybody's here for a big party, okay? All right. The wealthiest man in town had invited everyone in his home for a huge feast to celebrate the end of Ramadan. Mullah Nasruddin had been working in the fields all day, and his clothes and shoes were filthy. Nasruddin knew that he would be late if he went home to change his clothes before the feast. Let's get you over there. Camera angles, it's such an interesting, an interesting time we live in. When Nasruddin arrived, the host opened the door, looked Nasruddin up and down, and without a word of welcome, gestured Nasruddin to come in and walked abruptly away. Nasruddin joined the others, who were all dressed in their finest clothing. And despite his efforts to hurry, the seats were all taken, and nobody offered him a spot. Nobody spoke to him. The other guests ignored him. So completely, in fact, that Nasruddin could not enjoy his food, and he decided to leave. I wonder how this made him feel. Any ideas? Any ideas? Made him sad. Made him sad. But he hurried home and he changed into his finest clothing, including a beautiful coat, and returned to the feast. And this time, the host welcomed him with a huge smile. And as Nasruddin entered, people waved and invited him to eat with them and sit near them, and they offered him food. I wonder how this made him feel. Good.
Coat.
Nasruddin sat down and picked up a fig and a pineapple and a orange pepper, and he placed it into his coat pocket and said,
"Eat, coat, eat."
"Eat, coat, eat." Then he began to feed his coat in earnest, grabbing all sorts of foods. And he fed the coat lentils and chickpeas and olives and bread and figs and desserts and baklava. And everyone just became silent, watching him and wondering, what was he doing?
It's a very hungry coat. Do you have any more food?
So the host asked Nasruddin, "Whatever are you doing?"
Well, when I first came to this feast in my dirty clothes, I was not welcome. But when I returned in this coat, suddenly I was welcomed very warmly. So I realized it was not me that was welcome at this party, but my clothing. So I am feeding my coat.
The end. Thank you, friends. You may take some caramel with you back to your seats if you'd like. The there'll be some for all y'all later too. So this story has many lessons woven throughout it. You could say don't judge a book by its cover. You could say that it's on the person on the inside, not on what's outside that counts, that means, that matters. But what are some of the lessons you took from this story? Welcome a stranger. Yes. Potentially, Nasruddin was taking the food to share it with other people who were hungry. Any other lessons taken from this story? Yes, don't judge a book by its cover. Make sure your coat has big pockets, says Sandy Eaglin. I like it. I feel like I missed somebody. So you're seeing the sarcasm, and you're seeing that Nasruddin comes back to show them how shallow they were for rejecting him. So it's a lesson that Nasruddin is teaching the guests at the party. I like that, yeah. Anything else? Okay, so you gotta say that again, because I heard the first part.
Reverend Stephen looks fantastic in a pixie sweater.
Reverend Stephen does in fact look fantastic in a pixie sweater. But yeah, I wonder what you'll do in the coming weeks to welcome a stranger, to see the inside of a person, to see their character, to welcome with open arms everyone and all. I wonder if you will do that.
But what about rabbits and eggs? Was there a plague of rabbits in Egypt? And what about Jesus?
No, Maya, there wasn't a plague of rabbits. Let's ask Heidi to tell us the story of Jesus.
Hello, Heidi. The storyteller said you can tell me about Jesus. Can you? Do you know the story, and why is Passover part of the story? And what about rabbits and eggs?
Goodness, you ask a lot of questions. You must be a Unitarian Universalist. Yes, I can tell you the story. Over 2,000 years ago, there was a Jewish man named Jesus who was a street preacher. He lived when the Roman Empire ruled most of the world, a time of cruelty and oppression by people who were rich and powerful. Jesus' message was simple but radical. Love your enemies. See dignity in every person, no matter how sick or poor or strangely different from you. Challenge the structures of power that force people into poverty and war. Awake each day, let your spirit arise, and be filled with joy, because life is a gift. Love one another, and that love will create a better world. Jesus challenged and scared those who were in power because his words had the potential to create a rebellion and bring an end to Roman rule. The day after he celebrated Passover, he was arrested and sentenced to die. He died a terrible death as an enemy of the state, and those of us who followed him scattered in fear for their lives. Here's some of the story from the Gospel of Mark.
This is from the Gospel of Mark, the 15th and the 16th chapters. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. It was 9:00 in the morning when they crucified him. At 3:00, Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. When evening had come, Joseph of Arimathea went boldly to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Joseph bought a linen cloth, and taking down the body, wrapped it in the linen cloth, and laid it in a tomb that had been hewn out of the rock. He then rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go and anoint Jesus' body. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, and they were frightened. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is not here." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid.
Now I know more about Easter, but what about rabbits and eggs?
I have an idea. It seems to me with all the questions you have, that would be a good idea for you to talk with those who know more about this. And there just happens to be a big rabbit who can help, a talking rabbit, in fact. And so Maya went to look for that talking rabbit.
Holy cow, or holy rabbit, I've been looking all over, and I still can't find that rabbit he was talking about.
Rabbit? Rabbit? Did you say you were looking for a rabbit?
Yes, I did, and you talk. Could you please tell me everything else I don't know about Easter? Why do we celebrate Easter? Where does it come from? Some people say it's about Jesus, and others say it's about Passover. And this year, there's even Ramadan. Did you make Easter?
Easter. Easter's my favorite holiday. But heavens, no, I didn't make Easter. You do ask a lot of questions. Are you a Unitarian Universalist?
Yes, I am. Are you? And you? You look like, well, you are carrying a basket of colored eggs, and you are a bunny. After all, are you the Easter bunny?
Of course I am. Who did you think I was? The Tooth Fairy? This is what I do. I deliver eggs of all different colors to all different people all over the world. And I hide them too. And sometimes I bring them colorful baskets with nice paper grass and chocolate. Not today, though. Today, I just have eggs. That's it.
So that's it. You don't have anything more to tell me?
No. But I know that Colleen can tell us a story about Easter and the Easter Bunny.
That I can. Thank you, Easter Bunny. There was a beautiful German goddess named Austra. The goddess had long, thick hair, the color of golden wheat, and her eyes were as blue as the sky above. Austra was the goddess of spring, and it was her job to make sure that the earth awakened from its winter sleep. Spring was a time of new beginnings. It was a time to celebrate. Every year on the first day of spring, Austra held a huge spring festival in the meadow. Animals and children from all over the world would attend and bring gifts for the goddess of spring to show how happy they were with the fresh new season. One year, on the day before the festival, the hare went to give Austra a gift. But the hare had nothing that would be fit for a goddess. The hare was very poor, and he had a hard enough time feeding himself, never mind giving a gift to someone else. That day, while searching through the forest for some food, the hare found a fresh egg in the grass. He was very hungry and sat down to enjoy his found lunch. He was about to crack open the egg when he suddenly stopped. This egg would make a fine gift for Austra, he thought to himself. An egg, it symbolizes birth and spring. Yes, a very nice deed. So the hare hopped home to decorate the egg. And the next day, the hare went to the meadow and hopped up to the goddess, and he shyly presented her with his gift. Austra took one look at the egg and gave the hare a huge smile. It was a beautiful egg. The hare had painted the egg with lovely designs. And the goddess was so happy with this gift that she decided to reward the hare. That day, the goddess of spring told the hare that he could come and live in her castle. He would have only one job, and that would be to deliver a decorated children around the world for Easter. For Ostra loved children. The eggs would be delivered on the eve of the spring festival so that the children would wake up and find them in the morning. And so every year, Ostra's bunny, for a hare, is a type of rabbit, and his descendants would deliver eggs to the children. Today, we call the hare the Easter bunny.
So that's where the Easter Bunny came from. Why are you crying, Mr. Rabbit?
I just love a happy ending.
I just noticed something. The goddess's name is Ostra. Sure sounds like a lot like Easter.
Yes, that's because that's where the word Easter comes from. The name Ostra comes from the German word for east, which is Osten, where the dawn, the growing light of spring comes from. And Easter is in German is Ostern.
Wow, thank you. I've learned so much about Easter on my journey, but now I really want some chocolate.
Well, you are in luck, because as soon as we finish this service, there's an Easter egg hunt, and there'll be plenty of chocolate.
In our story about the Easter Bunny, the rabbit learned that when we give generously, we bring joy and make a difference in the lives of others, and we receive some surprising gifts as well. Thanks to your generous gifts of money, time, and care for each other, we have the joy of being together in this community that makes a difference in the lives of others and helps us grow spiritually, which is one of life's greatest gifts. Thank you. To help others in our community thrive, we also give to agencies and organizations in Kent and beyond that serve those in need. April's special offering is for the International Institute of Akron, which welcomes immigrants and refugees and provides help to them. In the spirit of gratitude for the gift of one another and this community and the abundance that makes our generosity possible, we now give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond. Now it is time to bring our worship and our celebration of the holy days of this time of year to a close. So would you join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again. Now these words adapted from Alex Holt. For all those who rejoice in the story of Passover and its promise of freedom, may you be blessed with freedom and work for the freedom of all people. For those who celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, may this day be a powerful, joyful affirmation of divine love, a love that holds us and renews us. For those who observe the holy month of Ramadan, may it be a time of joy and contemplation of holiness that brings you more compassion and spiritual renewal. And now for all of us, as the world awakens once again, as we arise to continue our journey toward freedom for everyone, and as we rejoice in life's goodness and creative power, let us go out in the world in joy and hope as we continue to inspire love, seek justice, and grow together in community. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. And I see love's light in you.